Welcome to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. I'm your host, Chris Spear. So here we're going to talk about gear, grit, and the kind of stories you only get around a fire. It's all about learning, adapting, and keeping your faith strong. So whether you're a seasoned outdoorsman or just looking to unplug and reconnect, you're in the right place. So pull up a chair by the fire and let's get into it.
All right, welcome back to the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft podcast. My name's Chris Spear, and a couple of weeks ago, or here recently, something like that, something very interesting happened within the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Facebook group, and one member posted a picture of himself standing in his living room wearing his backpack. That's it. No dramatic story. No survival situation. No fancy gear review. Just a dude getting ready for a trip. I believe he was going to the Hoosier National Forest. And that backpack, why can't I say that today? Backpack. Anyway, that backpack immediately caught a lot of people's attention. So I figured, hey, over a couple of days, there was a lot of comments, a lot of discussion about this. I was like, well, let's go out in South Mississippi summertime and 90 plus degrees, 200% humidity. And let's do a podcast episode about this there I go again. I can't say it. Backpack. So some folks thought that this backpack looked great. Others thought it was way overloaded. A few people said he needed a bigger pack. So I even left a comment in there. I was like, man, I've come to the conclusion the majority of people in this group are only here to leave condescending remarks. I know I said that. I shouldn't have, but I did. Once you say it, you can't take it back. But other people said he needed a smaller one. Other people said he wasn't carrying enough. The more comments I read, the more I realized nobody was actually talking about the backpack. Nobody was talking about the pack itself. So essentially, the way I broke it down is everybody was talking about themselves. They were talking about their experiences, their successes, their mistakes, and all the trips that taught them hard lessons. So before we discuss that, or before the discussion died down, another member asked a simple question, and I'll quote it here. How big is your gear bag, and how far can you carry it? So there was two. Now, don't get confused. These were two different posts. One was a post of a picture. One was just a little post saying how big is your gear bag and how far can you carry it? And that question generated hundreds more comments. By the time both discussions were slowing down, there was nearly 500 comments in this group about these backpacks and sacks and carrying your own weight and all that good stuff. And after reading all through them, I realized something. The backpack is not the topic. The backpack is not the topic. The topic was experience. So I've come to the conclusion. I've started bullet pointing my topics here so I don't ramble on too much. But I've come to the conclusion that there are 4 camps As I read through these comments, there was 4 distinct groups that emerged. And the first group was the ultralight crowd. Now, the ultralight crowd are the folks carrying 7 pounds, 12 pounds, 15 pounds. Every ounce, every gram matters to them. Every item has to be justified or they won't carry it. You have to justify its existence. The goal is simple: travel farther, move faster, and cover more ground. That's it. That is your ultralight crowd right there. That's camp number 1. So the second group was traditional backpackers. Most of them lived somewhere in the 25 to 35 pound range. They wanted a balance between comfort and mobility. They wanted enough gear to enjoy their trip. Not so much gear that they hated carrying it. Now, that's the second camp. That was the backpackers. The third group in this, take a wild guess. Take a wild guess. The third group was all you military guys, all you military veterans, all the ruckers. And this group had a completely different perspective. And I've noticed through the comments, after just pouring through the comments and reading the comments and just going through, looking and reading, it was like 40 pounds, 50 pounds, 60 pounds. Some talked about carrying 80 pounds or more. I know when I was in the military, by the time you got all your body armor on and you got your medic bag and all this good stuff, you got 80 pounds in a bag. I mean, it's ridiculous how much stuff we had to carry. And their mentality was not comfort. It was mission accomplished. And that is the way our great military works. Mission accomplished. We are here for a mission. We're going to do that mission to the best of our abilities. And then we're going to head out to the next mission. It's kind of like a waypoint. If you're traveling with a compass from one destination to another, you're going to hit a waypoint and then turn whichever way to the next waypoint. Same thing with a GPS. If you notice, if you use Onyx for hunting, then it's all waypoints. You're just adding waypoints in there and you can mark them to whatever it is. But their mentality was not comfort at all. Their mentality was just accomplish the mission. Then that was group number 3. Then group number 4 was the bushcrafters. Now this group felt a little bit more familiar because these are our people, the people that listen to this podcast, the people that are members of the Facebook group, Primitive Camping and Bushcraft, that Fall Spear Outdoors online. They're carrying a saw because they enjoy processing wood. They're carrying a cook kit because they enjoy cooking over coals. They're carrying a tarp because they plan to spend time in camp. They're not trying to win a race. They're trying to enjoy their experience. And that's where all the things get interesting. So it's crazy because all the time, every day in the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft Facebook group, we are always seeing comments of this ain't very primitive. This ain't very primitive. I'm having to remind folks all the time that, primitive to you is different than primitive to somebody else. Primitive does not mean a stone chisel. It does not. Yes, that is primitive. Don't get me wrong, but that's not in the context of what I wrote the book and started this group and started this podcast. And so there's more information about that on the Facebook group if you wish to join it. I highly encourage you. It's a hoot. We're getting tons of engagement on there every single day now. And the real question that most people ask over and over and over throughout all these conversations, throughout all these posts, the real question, the underlying question has been, how much gear should I carry? That's it. That is the underlying question. Then, I really personally think that that is the wrong question. The better question should be, and don't get me wrong, I believe that people are genuinely asking this because there are a lot of individuals in our group that haven't done this, that are first timers, that are just learning how to get outdoors. And that is where this whole idea of primitive camping and bushcraft comes from, is to teach people how to get outdoors and enjoy their time. But the better question is, why are you carrying it, as in that gear? So every item in your pack costs something. Everything you have in your pack costs something. And here are 3 key things that it costs. And everybody, no matter what camp you belong to in the 4 camps of these groups, no matter what camp, we can all agree that every item in your pack costs weight. That's the first one. Costs space in your backpack. That's the second. And energy. That's the third one. That is the 3 things that cost the most whenever we are loading our gear and heading out. Those 3 items: weight, space, and energy. So the trick isn't carrying less. The trick is to carry the right things. You follow me? So, I know, Chris, but what do you mean by the right things? Well, in the gear section of the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft book, I wrote that certain items, you would carry them. You know what gets me is I didn't even bring it down here with me today for the podcast based off of the book. But in the gear section, I outlined gear. I didn't specifically say what. I outlined what it was for you to make the determination if you wanted to select that and take it with you. Now, ultimately, when it comes down to gear is one of those things that you are going to make sure it has more than one purpose. Gear should always have more than one use. There should be an idea, a permanent fixture in your mind that if I use this, what can I use it for besides what it's designed for? So I got a 3-pack. I own 3 packs, and I'm about to film a YouTube video this week on this. And I'm going to go over the bag, how to load it, how to, all the good stuff, and why I have these 3 separate individual bags. All right. Follow me on this. All right. I have what works for me. All right. What works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for me. Okay. So first I have the 3-pack system that I'm talking about here. The first is the Rothko European rucksack. It is a cheap canvas rucksack. Eventually I want to get it to where I waterproofed it. I'm thinking I can't decide whether I want to use the silicone and naphtha or mineral spirits to make this particular thing waterproof, or do I want to use the wax and mineral oil? I haven't decided on those 2 yet, but either way, both of those are great waterproofing methods. If you ever followed Nighthawk and Light on YouTube, the dude is amazing, and he has 2 amazing ways to waterproof any kind of material. So I did an experiment I wanted to try it out. And so I did a king size bed sheet. I have made so many videos with this bed sheet. I have used this bed sheet to cover me up in the rain. I have used it as a ground cloth. I have used it as cover when I was camping. I have used this thing to make hammocks with. I have carried water in it. It is that waterproof. It will hold water to where I'm going. Now, some does leak out, but it will carry enough water to get to where I'm going. So, yes, I mean, it is an amazing thing. So I haven't decided if I want to waterproof the Rothco European rucksack that way. Now, this rucksack is 30 liters. It's canvas. It's extremely simple, and it's extremely basic. There is one aspect of this that I do not like, and that is the top hatch is a zipper that if one side's open, something will come out. So I devised a way. I put a carabiner in there so it won't open up. The zippers can't accidentally open up and come out. So this thing it's has no fancy suspension. It does not have endless compartments. It's got two side cup compartments, a top compartment, and inside it's kind of like a bucket. And I think it's got a little pocket on the outside. So this pack, I have gotten everything down for a 1 or 2 night stay at 19 pounds. I've got it down to 19 pounds, and that's a bushcrafting kit. That's not just an ultralight hiking kit. All right. That is a hammock and some pots and pans, some food, a change of clothes, a knife. I'm going to go over it all in the video. And if I recall, I will try to put the link to the YouTube video where I've covered the Rothco before and on YouTube, but I will try to do it again. But everything that you carry is discipline. You are disciplined to do it. So you have to decide what really matters. And the second pack I use, boy, I cannot speak English tonight. The second pack I use. So the second backpack is the Pathfinder Scout Pack. And it is 30 to 35 liters. It has an internal frame. It's nylon. It's got some attachment points on there, some large side pockets, some compression straps, and this is probably the sweet spot for many bushcrafters. It's big enough for comfort, but it's small enough to prevent nonsense, and it doesn't seem it's weird, that pack. It does not seem to carry much more than the Rothco, but it does. I don't know how to explain that. But anyway, it works for me. And it's got a couple packs on the outside, a couple little zipper compartments. Perfect for, hey, you're going for a couple days. Now, if I'm going for a longer trip, and this is where earlier I said, follow me here. Follow me on this. What works for me may not work for you, blah, blah, blah. The third pack is a $99 Amazon Basics 75 liter internal frame pack. That's it. It is a $99 75 liter pack. It is, I've used it countless times. I've hiked with it countless times. When I typically use it, I'm throwing it into a boat or a kayak or something to that nature and heading to where I'm going. It is a great, it's if you want to carry it, this thing is like a bucket. You could dump it in there. And matter of fact, I didn't think of it, but you could probably put a 5-gallon bucket inside there first and then put all the rest of your gear in there if you wanted to. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but I might do a video on that or something. It is perfect for extra food, extra clothing. It's perfect for extra food, extra clothing, and for me, camera equipment. And that is one of the main reasons I bring this bag with me whenever I go camping, is because I bring a lot of camera gear. I got the main camera here. I got the 2 cameras on the sides. I got lights. I got, podcast equipment, blah, blah, blah. And that stuff takes up a lot of gear. And if I'm doing videos for companies or stuff of the such, it takes up a lot of room. So one thing I like about that is that it carries a lot of winter gear. Winter gear is a little bit more bulky, and it allows me to carry more comfort items. And that is both a strength and a weakness, because empty space has a way of convincing us we need more. And that's where you get up to that, like it's up to 60 or 65 liters. And then it's a drawstring about this high where you can compress it down or more. And that statement is so true, that if you have an empty space inside a bag, it makes you feel like you need more when you really don't. What you really need to do is concentrate on what you do have and taking the tools that work for you. So now let's talk about loading the pack. There were plenty of comments about that. And there's different camps as far as loading a pack, how to load a pack. Most of them are similar, I'm not going to lie, and I have always put like bulkier bedding stuff at the bottom, heavier pots and stuff, like it just a little bit up. That way, it don't shift your center of gravity type deal. So this is where the comments really started contradicting. And one person said heavy gear belongs low. Another person said that heavy gear needs to go up high. Another said it belongs in the middle. And the truth is, most experienced outdoorsmen agree on 3 things. Keep heavy items near your back. Keep the load stable. Don't let stuff shift around in there. And keep your most frequently used items towards the top, or always accessible. So for me, I don't typically bring a sleeping bag, but if I was, I would put it down there. I do use a wool blanket, and that wool blanket goes at the bottom, or sometimes I will actually carry it on the outside of the bag, on the bottom of the bag, kind of like they do in the movies, sleep clothes, sleeping pads, all that stuff that you're going to get out last should be at the very bottom. So in the middle of the pack, I'm going to carry my food. I don't carry water. I carry a Grail GeoPress, and I will carry that cup on the side. So I don't carry water inside my bag. Typically where I go in the South, water is readily available. All you just have to do is filter it. You don't have to worry about bringing water in, because you can't find none in a desert area. So I'm typically going to have water filtration system, not bulk water. My cooking kit's going to go in there. Then shelter, rain gear, insulation, like jackets and stuff like that. Then on my exterior pockets, I'm going to have my compass, my headlamp, some snacks, my first aid kit. And typically I have my first aid kit on close to the top on the inside. I don't keep it on the outside. So everybody's going to do it different. If you go, and you can actually Google the U.S. Army guide to loading a rucksack, and it's good information. It tells you how the Army does it. And the Army's been doing their stuff for 250 years. And so it's like a continuous self-improvement process. They have the experience. It works for them. And that's what they do, and that's how they train you to do it. And, you know, some of the Air Force, the Army gave birth to the Air Force. And a lot of our processes and everything, a majority of the military processes come from the Army, Army and Navy, you know, because those two branches have been around basically the longest. But you can go online and see how that works out, because it will give you a complete loadout, kind of like the survival handbook. It'll tell you exactly step by step what to do, how to do it. You know, kind of like we talked earlier, mission, follow the mission and go for it. So one of the smartest comments in the entire discussion came from a member who said that he already cut half his gear and probably could cut half again. To me, that's experience. That is experience talking. And I've done that. I have went camping, and I recommend everybody do that. That is the one thing that everybody that hears my voice should do. If you get into the woods and you don't use it, cut it down. You get into the woods and you don't use it, cut it down. You know, that's why you have multiple items that have multiple purposes. If you carry one item that could do 3 different things, but you're carrying one thing that the other thing could do, get rid of the one thing. Follow me? So that comment was experience. That comment is something that I really would like everybody to start trying. It's an exercise that we should all live by on this group, in this podcast. Had to get some H2O. So here's one way to do that. After your next trip, I want you to make 3 lists. Okay. And one is items that you used every day that you were gone. Make 3 lists. The first list, and you can do it all on one piece of paper, but items you used every day, list them all out. Items you only used once, list them all out. Items you never used, list them all out. Then go to your gear section. In that third category is where the weight disappears. You go ahead and say, I never use this. Cut it all out. Don't bring it with you the next time. And I know us as humans always have a tendency of, just in case. Just in case. I need this just in case. But if you do that and you go through and you start cutting out gear that you never touched, you're going to substantially drop the weight of your pack. You're going to substantially increase the longevity of your hike. You're going to substantially increase your knowledge of how to use what you brought with you. And then you will increase your experience. Follow me? So somebody else made a comment in there too. So somebody else or something else stood out really, but these comments kept popping up. Many of the comments come from people in their 50s, their 60s, some in their 70s. All right, get that, guys. Some 70-year-old folks are in the Primitive Camping and Bushcraft group and commenting constantly. But a common theme started to emerge. Most of them were carrying less gear today than they did years ago. Now, not because of age, not because they became weaker, but because they became smarter. They became wiser. They learned what worked. They learned what did not, and they learned what was worth carrying, and they learned what was not worth carrying. Experience removes more weight than excessive gear ever will. Your experience from trip to trip will always remove more gear. Your experience will weigh more. You know, there's an old saying from Morse Kohansky where he said, the more you know, the less you carry. And a lot of people have used that comment in our comment section. And it's to the point to where it is a theme. The more you know, the less you carry. So you have to be cognizant of the fact that a lot of the folks in this group are newcomers, and they need you to help coach them along. But all in all, there's a lesson here that goes a lot further than backpacks. So life, it works a lot in the same way. And I'd write this down, but many of us spend years carrying things that we were never meant to carry. Just like in this backpack, you as an individual, as a person, are carrying something in your life that you were never meant to carry. Regret, bitterness, fear, pride. You know, we fill our packs with burdens so much that they slow us down. In Matthew 11:28, come to me, all you who are labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Just like the backpack, life gets easier when you learn what belongs and what does not. Some things stay, some things need to go. And wisdom that we're constantly sharpening is knowing the difference. So, recapping this thing out, those 2 Facebook posts weren't really about backpacks. They were really about learning that every trip teaches something. Every piece of gear either earns its place or gets left behind the next time. So before your very next trip, lay everything out on a tarp. And you see these pictures all the time. If you surf the outdoors groups and Facebook pages, and if you start searching Facebook for YouTube, any of these social medias, if you start looking at certain things, it's going to start feeding you certain things. An algorithm is what it's called. If you look at outdoors content, it's going to feed you outdoors content. Conversely, if you look at naked pictures, you're going to get fed naked pictures. It's crazy, but the thing is going to do what it does. I'd advise you not to look at the naked pictures. You know, pornography will destroy your mind. But before your next trip, lay everything out on a tarp. You've seen these pictures before. That's where I was going with this. You've seen the top down. What would you leave? What would you take? What else would you add? You know, that kind of stuff. And ask yourself, why is that there? Why is this item here? Why do I need it? Now, choose the pack that matches your gear. You know, I use a $99 75 liter pack whenever I go on big trips. It's a $99 pack. It has served me well. I have one complaint about it. The adjustment strap, it slips. Other than that, it's a great backpack. It's $99. You don't have to spend $500-$600 on a backpack. But choose the pack that matches the mission. We're going back to the military stuff here. Whatever your mission is, choose the pack that matches that mission. Now, get outside. The woods are going to teach you everything that Facebook and the Facebook group cannot. What a comment never could. The woods will teach you everything you need to know. I saw some posts this week about people. I'm new here and I have these books. What do I do? Read the book. Go out and practice what you just read. You don't have my book? That's fine. Read another one. Read the Bushcraft 101 book. Read the SAS Survival Handbook. Get out there and practice what you read. Don't just read it, because if you read it and put it in here, it's never going to come back out if you don't practice it. There's a saying where practice make perfect. Well, no, it doesn't make perfect, but it does make better. So practice will make it better for you. So get out there and practice. So that's it for today. I'm just going to go ahead and sign off with that, saying get out there and practice. It's summertime. If you don't have a place to start a fire in your barbecue pit. Put you some tinder and start a fire right there on top of your barbecue pit where you ain't going to catch the world on fire. There's always a way to practice. Get into your yard, go into your living room, set up a tent. Don't set up a hammock on the 13th floor of your condo, on the balcony edges. I don't recommend that. But, get outside as best you can and set up your gear. Practice with your gear. Practice as best you can with what you have available. Start to see a theme. What gear is available. Learn how to use the gear. What backpacks is available. Practice, practice, practice. All right, guys, I'll see you next time. And remember, in all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. God bless you.